USC going to Michigan. And this is going to be a test. It's kind of the first real kind of, like I said, the first game that sort of gives us the new identity of the Big Ten. I love the concept of the stylistic clash, but I got to tell you, I don't think this is going to be as stylistically clashing as we think. I'm going to say it, Chris, Damien. USC not soft anymore. Not soft anymore. I love what I've seen from them defensively. I looked this up from Pro Football Focus. USC is now 32nd in yards after contact allowed, and they were 107th last year. Basically, that means they can tackle now. When they get their hands on you, they're getting you on the turf, and that was probably the biggest issue from them last year. A lot of stuff on the line of scrimmage that wasn't great from them, despite having big bodies and having a lot of talent there. But why they were poor at tackling, I think, is worth debate. How much of that is practice structure? How much is how often you hit? How much of that is Alex Orji's scheme or tape or whatever? I don't know. But I know that D'Anton Lynn has seemed to fix a lot of the tackling issues. And Michigan right now, they're moving to Alex Orji. He's going to start for them. 98th nationally in passes longer than 20 yards. They have got just 6 so far. My question is, can you use Alex Orji in a way that makes them more explosive? Get him outside the pocket, make teams account for his legs while trying to look downfield and not scramble to scramble, but scramble to throw and take advantage of some of that space downfield. But to me, and I'll kick this to you, Chris, because you're very familiar with Michigan, and this to me seems like a big picture issue, is that Sherrone Moore seems like he wants to be the same team that they were last year without the offensive line to actually execute it, and without a top 10 pick at quarterback. That doesn't help either. But to me, that's an issue. They've got one receiver with 40 yards receiving this year, and Colston Loveland looks a little iffy to even play in this game.
He's Chris, not even a receiver. He's not even a receiver either. He's a tight end.
That's my point, though. Is if you don't have a receiver that you can really go to, and Samaj Morgan is an okay player, and you don't have Colston Loveland, I don't know if you can score enough to keep up in this game. But Chris, is my read of the Sherrone Moore situation, it feels like this is a time to pivot and make your team identity something a little bit different than it was before. This is one of the things that made Nick Saban great. We talk about all the time. But it feels like he's trying to ram a square peg in a round hole, and it's not working. Am I off base on the Wolverines here?
I mean, my sense that I got from Michigan the whole time, all off season, was that they thought Alex Orji was going to be the guy. And he never took the job. He never grabbed it and became that guy that won the job. And said Davis Warren won the job. And so that's why we didn't see him very much. And now, with as bad as Davis Warren has been, he can't stop turning the ball over. We're going to go to Alex Orji, and we're going to go to a run-based offense. Alex Orji is in his 3rd season at Michigan. He's played in 12 games. He's thrown 7 passes. Like, that's it. 3 for 6 this year for 15 yards. We haven't seen him throw the ball down the field. He's averaging 2.5 yards per pass attempt. So this is just a complete unknown here in whether or not this is going to be like remember when Kentucky put Lynn Bowden at quarterback?
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was awesome. Running over teams. Like, that's what Michigan, I think that's what Michigan needs to do. I think it fits the personnel and what they have at this point. And if you don't have a quarterback you can trust to throw the ball, that's what you got to do. And you're right, USC is a lot nastier up front this year than they have been in a while. The defensive line is playing very, very well. And so you'd like to think USC's defensive strength right now plays into what Michigan's going to try to do. So that's where things stand. The running back position is also weird. Damien, I'm going to ask you here real quick about running backs, because Donovan Edwards came in with a lot of hype. He's on the cover of the video game, had 2 big runs in the national championship game, but he hasn't been very good for like a while now, outside of that Washington game. This year, 36 carries, 150 yards, 4.2 yards per carry, no rushes longer than 20 yards. Meanwhile, Clell Mullings is averaging 7.5 yards per carry, 3 rushes of 20 plus yards. I watched Michigan play Texas. This is the more explosive running back. So I'm curious, when you look at Michigan's offense, it's clearly going to be run based moving forward. What do you kind of see out of these 2 running backs, and especially Donovan Edwards?
Yeah, so I've done a deep study trying to figure out what exactly is going on with Donovan Edwards. And to be honest with you, I can't exactly figure out anything wrong other than the fact that maybe we just overanalyzed how well he played last year. And kind of like you said, he was on the cover of the new video game, and we had all these expectations based on the runs he had in the postseason last year and kind of the way he was projecting towards the end of the season. But when I look at him play, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with his game, right? Like I've heard a couple rumblings that, he might be a little bit impatient. Maybe he looks for the big play. He likes to bounce a lot. But when I turn his tape on, I mean, I see him reading his blocks. I see him hitting the right holes. I see him, making the play that needs to be made. I really think this is just a situation of Kalen Mullings is just the better back. He's the more patient. He's the more physical back. I think he reads the schemes a little bit better. I think he's better at the point of contact. I think he's more elusive, more explosive. I think that when it comes down to just the basic fundamentals of the running back position, I think Kalen Mullings is just better. So again, I'm sitting here confused because, I was one of those people that had Donovan Edwards high on my radar too. Seeing what I saw him the way he came off of last season, I expected him to be in that conversation with the top running backs in the league or in college football, excuse me.
Yeah.
But, again, I don't see anything wrong with his game, but we're just not seeing those explosive plays. We're not seeing him look like Kalen Mullings whenever he gets the ball. I mean, they've got identical amount of carries. One is averaging over 7 yards a carry. The other is averaging, barely over 4.
Yeah.
And again, when you look at the tape, they're both doing the right things. It's just a case of one guy is just the better player. One guy is more productive. One guy is more efficient. One guy creates more whenever whenever he turns a gain of 1 or 2 into 4 or 5, maybe 6, because he's pushing the pot a little bit more. So I really, after studying this, I don't see as much of this being like Donovan Edwards has completely slumped or he's completely fallen off a cliff or anything. I think that we're just seeing that maybe our expectations were a little bit too high. Maybe we overhyped this kid, and Kalen Mullings is just the better back.
Producer Cam dropped some numbers. 2.21 seconds for Miller Moss from snap to release on average. That's the 5th fastest in college football, and no scrambles this year from Pro Football Focus. That is a way to neutralize Michigan's defensive line. I don't have any questions about Michigan's defense, but I think USC.
I got some. Texas moved them off the ball. Texas, maybe Texas is just that good. That's certainly possible.
Texas is that
Texas,
good.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Them in
Texas
a way
is just that good.
I'm still okay with Michigan's defense. I think they're still going to be a top 10 defense, but I think USC can get to 24-27 in this game. I don't think Michigan can. And that to me, again, this is another thing where the public is all on USC, but I'm gonna trust my eyes on this, Chris. I was high on USC coming into the season. I felt like Lynn could fix some things. I felt like they had better personnel. I felt like all the issues from last year, if you can just fix some basic stuff defensively, your floor goes up in a hurry. I'm going to stick with my eyes. I'm going to take USC here to win this game and have another sad day at the Big House. Damien, who do you like in this game?
I think Miller Moss having as much time as he has to just sit back in the pocket, dissect the defense, get the ball out to his playmakers. I think they just end up scoring way too many points. This Michigan offense, as we know, they have no clue what they're doing. And even, with Alex Orji, even if they do have success, I mean, this is going to be a run heavy offense. And that's not going to score you a lot of points. So hopefully if they can get that going, they can keep the ball away from Miller Moss, but I don't think that it's going to be effective enough. So I like USC scoring a lot of points and creating another sad day in the Big House.
Moss was dealing in that LSU game. We'll see what else
he was. And I don't know. That's the sign of a good quarterback. Whenever it's one thing to have the time, but I mean, there are a lot of quarterbacks that do have ample amount of time. I mean, I hate to throw my dog Bryce Young under the bus, but I just saw something talking about how his offensive line is protecting him better than almost anybody else in the league, and he's still struggling, right? So it's not as easy as just like, okay, well, I've got time. Let me just go out there, throw pitch and catch. So the fact that Miller Moss is incredibly efficient, and it looked like he was very surgical in that LSU game. Like it looked like even on that last drive down the field to win the game, he was very just concise, very accurate. So I think that with him having that amount of time and being able to be as efficient as he is, that speaks to how good he is at the quarterback position.
I've got USC winning, but I think we're going to go Michigan covering. Michigan is +6. I'd feel better putting something on that if it was 7, but I think You put Orji in, you run the ball, you shorten the game, you presumably don't throw 3 interceptions like Davis Warren did. You cut down on the turnovers, you play a little more stout defensively, and you can keep this one low scoring, a 2014 kind of game, maybe something like that. So I'm going to say Michigan covers.